woman once saved a dying baby elephant's life. 14 years later, he came back, and what he did brought everyone to tears. Dr. Sarah Mitchell never intended to become known as Kenya's elephant whisperer. 2 decades ago, she was a rising veterinary student in London, focused more on small pets than massive wildlife. But everything changed after a 3-month volunteer trip to the Mbale Wildlife Sanctuary. Now, at 45, her sun-worn skin and weathered hands told the story of a life devoted to caring for Africa's giants. Locals affectionately called her Mama Tempo, mother of elephants. Though she'd never raised children, her modest outpost on the edge of Mbale National Park was more clinic than home. X-rays of fractured limbs, behavior logs, and hundreds of photos covered the walls, each snapshot a testament to the elephants she'd treated. She gave up the trappings of a typical life for this calling, a failed marriage to a fellow scientist who didn't share her passion, missed milestones back home in England, and a predictable career path left behind. But what she found was deeper, a profound bond with beings whose emotional depth never ceased to move her. Her most unforgettable case came in 2010. A young bull, barely 3 years old, ensnared in a poacher's wire trap. The wound was grave, the infection worse. Many advised putting the calf down, but something in his eyes pierced straight through her. She named him Jabari, Swahili for brave, and spent nearly 3 months painstakingly restoring his health before setting him free. The sanctuary's current director, Dr. Benjamin Kamani, often joked that Sarah had a sixth sense for elephants. She could read them like a book, anticipating their moods and reactions in ways no one could explain. But what no one knew was that something extraordinary had happened in those long, silent nights with Jabari, a connection beyond logic. That unexplainable bond would come back into focus years later. On the morning of September 15, 2024, Sarah was reviewing patient files when her radio crackled. Martin, a ranger patrolling near the eastern perimeter, sounded uneasy. "Dr. Mitchell, you need to see this," he said. "There's a big bull elephant just waiting. Been standing by. The fence for hours, the others moved on, he didn't." Sarah grabbed her kit and jumped into the battered sanctuary Land Rover. As she drove, thoughts of Jabari returned. She'd released many elephants, but none had affected her like he had. Their connection had been different. Peering through her binoculars as she approached, she saw him. An enormous bull, easily 12 feet tall, with tusks gleaming in the early light. But what struck her wasn't his size. It was how still he stood, his stance intentional, calm. "How long has he been like this?" she radioed. "Since sunrise," Martin replied. "He scared off 3 safari trucks, but he hasn't acted aggressively. It's like he's waiting." As she neared, the elephant slowly turned his head. Even from a distance, she recognized the telltale scar on his left ear, the mark she'd studied so many times while treating Jabari. Her fingers trembled. In that instant, she knew, so did he. The massive bull raised his trunk in a gesture she hadn't seen in over a decade, a greeting they'd shared countless times during his recovery. "That's impossible," Kamani said through the radio, watching from the ridge with his team. "Wild elephants don't remember individual humans for this long. It's never been documented." But Sarah wasn't listening to the science. She was watching Jabari draw patterns in the dirt, shapes deliberately etched. Her heart caught. During his rehab, she'd used those shapes to gauge his cognitive healing, and now he was repeating them, only this time they were far more advanced. "Ben," she whispered, "are you recording this?" The drawings weren't random. He was recreating the exact sequence she'd once used. Circle, triangle, square, circle. But adding new forms, expanding them into a progression far beyond what she'd ever taught. Dr. Kamani's voice crackled with awe. "Sarah, we've matched this bull's route. He's traveled over 1,000 kilometers, right here to this spot. This isn't chance. It's deliberate." Sarah was faced with a choice that defied every conservation protocol. Interaction with a wild adult bull was strictly forbidden, but everything in her heart and training told her this was a moment that transcended policy. A breakthrough in understanding the emotional intelligence of elephants. "I'm going out to him," she said firmly. brushing off the chorus of objections coming through the radio. He's not just remembering, he's trying to communicate. This wasn't just a case of recognition. It was evidence of advanced cognition like nothing ever recorded. Sarah's decision to step forward had an immediate ripple effect. Research. Teams mobilized in a frenzy, assembling cameras, drones, and data collection tools. Word of an elephant displaying complex cognitive behaviors spread rapidly through the global scientific community. Within hours, the sanctuary was overwhelmed. With calls from experts and media alike, Sarah moved toward Jabari with slow, measured steps, her heart hammering in her chest. As she closed the distance, more familiar markers came into view. Along with the ear scar, she recognized faint lines on his trunk, remnants of a surgical procedure she'd performed, and the telltale notch on his left tusk, a signpost of his journey back to health. Jabari stood still, eyes locked on hers, calm but attentive. Then, before a crowd of stunned observers, he picked up a stick from the ground and began drawing once more, this time replicating the shape of the scar on his leg. He was remembering. More than that, he was sharing their story. As the reunion captured global attention, Dr. Kamani made another astonishing find. Reviewing tracking logs, he noticed a clear pattern. Jabari's herd had been visiting various rehabilitation sites across Kenya. Each stop corresponded with locations where elephants from their group had once been treated. Simultaneously, Dr. Emily Wong, a cognitive scientist from Stanford, arrived to analyze Jabari's remarkable behavior. Her team soon confirmed the patterns weren't random. They were memory maps tied to specific moments from his recovery. This pointed to a level of reasoning and abstract memory never before seen in elephants. Even more extraordinary, Jabari's herd began mimicking the behavior. Two younger females who had never been in human care were seen drawing simpler versions of his shapes in the dust, learning by example. It was a breakthrough in interspecies learning. Local Maasai elders came forward, sharing ancestral stories of elephant teachers, mythic bulls said to carry knowledge between worlds. What had long been dismissed as legend now demanded a place in the realm of science. The sanctuary shifted focus. Sarah and her colleagues began investigating similar accounts across the continent. They uncovered a consistent thread. Elephants, who had undergone rehabilitation, were not only remembering human caretakers, they were passing on those experiences. This wasn't just retention, it was transmission, teaching. Over the following weeks, Sarah's bond with Jabari deepened beyond anything she'd experienced. Every morning, he would return to the sanctuary's edge, ready to engage. Their sessions became more intricate, filled with symbolic drawings and gestures. Dr. Wong's team cataloged more than 50 unique patterns, each tied to specific meanings and memories. Through Jabari, Sarah began to unlock layers of communication she hadn't known were possible. He'd motion toward specific elephants in his herd, then create symbols that seemed to narrate their stories. The younger members watched closely, sometimes imitating the patterns and Sarah's responses, eager to understand. Dr. Kamani, once a skeptic, now stood firmly behind their findings. What we're witnessing, he told visiting scientists, is more than animal memory. It's the birth of a shared language, a conscious effort by two intelligent species to connect. The sanctuary's other elephants began responding differently to Sarah as well. Mothers with calves, typically cautious, approached without hesitation when Jabari was present. He acted as an ambassador, making specific trunk signals the others clearly trusted. Most astonishing of all, Jabari began leading injured elephants to the sanctuary's boundary, an act that redefined how medical care was delivered to wild herds. With each arrival, he etched precise patterns in the dirt, signaling the type and location of injuries. Sarah learned to interpret subtle shifts in his drawings, discerning not only physical needs but the emotional weight behind each message. The sanctuary's relationship with the surrounding communities began to evolve. Maasai warriors, once wary of elephants as threats, now partnered with the staff, sharing centuries-old wisdom about elephant behavior. In Jabari, they saw echoes of ancestral legends, tales of elephants who acted as envoys between humans and the wild. The defining moment came during the worst drought Kenya had seen in generations. One morning, Jabari arrived visibly agitated, his movements urgent. He began drawing with a frantic precision that alarmed Sarah. This wasn't routine communication. Something was very wrong beyond the sanctuary's borders. Dr. Wong's team quickly interpreted his symbols. A distressed herd, including calves, trapped in a dry riverbed 20 miles south. The drought had turned once passable riverbanks into treacherous pits of thickening mud, stranding the elephants in a slow, silent crisis. Despite the risks, Sarah didn't hesitate. Leaving the sanctuary to follow a wild elephant into unsecured land violated multiple safety protocols, but the message was too clear to ignore. Within the hour, she had assembled a rescue team of vets, researchers, and Maasai trackers. Nothing prepared them for what they found. 15 elephants, 4 of them calves, mired in drying mud, dangerously dehydrated. But what unfolded next astonished. Even seasoned field experts. Jabari assumed a leadership role. He indicated optimal positions for support vehicles, guided people through safer paths, and pointed out elephants most in need of urgent help. His awareness of rescue equipment seemed instinctive. He used his massive strength with precision, as if he understood how the winches and ropes functioned. The rescue operation captured international headlines and ignited intense debate. Conservation purists accused the sanctuary of blurring the line between wild and tame. Critics called for Sarah's professional review, warning that her actions set a dangerous precedent for human-animal interaction. The controversy reached its peak when the International Wildlife Conservation Board summoned Sarah and Dr. Kamani to Nairobi for an emergency review. Armed with extensive documentation, they stood before a panel of experts. "This isn't anthropomorphism," Sarah told the board as she played footage of Jabari's symbolic language. "This is real intelligence. He's not just recalling the past, he's building on it, inventing new ways to communicate across species." Dr. Wong took the floor next, presenting data from her AI-assisted pattern analysis. Her team had cataloged over 200 distinct symbols in Jabari's drawings, each used consistently in different contexts. The statistical likelihood of randomness was effectively zero. But what truly shifted the discussion came from the field. As the panel debated, reports surfaced of similar behaviors from other rehabilitated elephants across Africa. In Uganda, one former orphan had led rangers to active poacher traps. In Tanzania, another had been observed mentoring young elephants on how to safely interact with nearby humans. Meanwhile, Maasai elders gave testimony, sharing oral histories, once dismissed as myth. Their stories, of intelligent elephants and mutual understanding, were now being validated by cutting-edge science. In response, Dr. Kamani proposed a radical new conservation model, one built on cooperation rather than control. "We're not just sharing land with these creatures," he said. "We're sharing knowledge, communication, a joint responsibility for survival." The board's final ruling would go on to reshape wildlife conservation forever. Policy. The sanctuary was officially recognized as a global center for interspecies communication, with Sarah and Dr. Wong pioneering a new field they called cooperative conservation. Jabari's herd became the first group of wild elephants acknowledged as active partners in wildlife protection. 1 year after the mud pit rescue, the Amboseli Sanctuary had evolved into the International Center for Elephant Communication Studies. What began as a simple reunion between a vet and her former patient had sparked a revolution in how humanity interacts with the natural world. Jabari's role had shifted from survivor to teacher. He began routinely bringing members of his herd to the sanctuary's learning zone, a safe, open space designed for structured human-elephant interaction. Young elephants practiced drawing patterns under his guidance, while researchers carefully recorded the growth of this new language. The most remarkable moment came when Jabari started mentoring other bulls from distant herds. These visiting elephants made long journeys to spend time at the sanctuary, learning Jabari's visual language before returning to share it with their own families. Soon, a network of elephant-human communication hubs began to take root across East Africa. Sarah's understanding of elephant intelligence expanded far beyond what she'd ever imagined. "We didn't just save Jabari," she often told new arrivals. "We gave him the tools to change everything, and he chose to use them not for himself, but for all of us." Sarah's life had changed in ways she couldn't have foreseen. Once a traditional wildlife vet, she was now a pioneer standing at the forefront of a new scientific frontier. Her daily interactions with Jabari and his herd continually upended her understanding of cognition, connection, and consciousness. Reflecting in her journal, she wrote, "Back then I thought I was healing Jabari, but he was studying us. He didn't just recover, he evolved and found a way to teach others what he'd learned." The Maasai community's role also transformed. Where young warriors once proved their bravery by facing elephants in conflict, they now became interpreters of communication, trained mediators between species, using traditional knowledge fused with new science to guide conservation. Together, this fusion of wisdom built a powerful, living model for protecting shared landscapes. Dr. Wong's research revealed that elephants possessed a capacity for abstract thought that far surpassed previous assumptions. Their drawings weren't just simple symbols. They encoded spatial relationships, memories of time, and emotional states. With each generation, the language grew richer. Young elephants didn't just learn, they contributed. Communication became a cultural inheritance, passed down and expanded. Sarah realized she was no longer just a teacher. She was a student. The elephants revealed secrets of the land, guided her to hidden water sources, and taught her to interpret shifts in weather through subtle changes in behavior. "They're not just sharing information," she said quietly one evening. "They're sharing wisdom." The story of Sarah and Jabari became a global symbol of hope. Their reunion proved that true conservation isn't about domination or even protection. It's about partnership. It's about recognizing that intelligence, empathy, and the drive to connect cross the boundaries of species. Jabari continued to return regularly, each visit filled with new lessons, new symbols, new bridges built between minds once thought worlds apart. One evening, as Sarah watched him patiently teaching a group of calves to draw for a new group of researchers, she felt the full weight of what had unfolded. The miracle wasn't simply that Jabari had remembered her. It was that he had chosen to turn that memory into a gift, into a future neither of them could have imagined. "Sometimes," she told her students, "the most profound discoveries don't come from our questions or data. They come from the ones we thought we were meant to teach, when we finally learn to listen. If this story stirred something ancient within you, if you felt the hum of forgotten magic, the ache of buried truths, or the courage it takes to walk between worlds, then maybe like Sarah, you're ready to listen too. Then don't let this moment slip away. Here at Wild Heart Stories, we don't just tell tales. We awaken something ancient inside you. Every story is a heartbeat, a whisper from forgotten lands, a spark from the soul of the earth itself. And if you felt even a flicker of that spark today, it means you were meant to find us. This is your tribe. So right now, pause, breathe. Ask yourself, when was the last time a story made you feel this much? If your chest tightened with love or grief, if you saw a reflection of your own soul in the eyes of another creature, if a single moment between human and animal cracked something open in you, then you already know. This isn't just a story. It's a return to instinct, to wonder, to the sacred connection between all living things. So join us. Click that subscribe button and become part of a movement where stories are sacred and emotion is everything. But don't stop there. Tap the notification bell, because the next chapter is already being written, and it might just change how you see the world. Leave us a comment right now. Tell us what moment hit you the hardest. Was it the silent gaze, the final act of trust, the transformation sparked by love, grief, or courage? We read every comment. Your words matter. They help us shape the next story. They remind us we're not alone in this. And if this story reminded You of someone. Someone with a wild heart. Someone who still believes in magic. Someone who sees beauty in creatures and chaos. Share this with them. You never know whose soul needs this right now. You see, Wild Heart Stories isn't just a YouTube channel. It's a sanctuary for believers, a place where myth and truth walk hand in hand, where magic is real, not because we see it with our eyes, but because we feel it in our bones. And if you felt that, today, you're already one of us. Every like, every share, every comment, it's fuel. Fuel for the fire that lets us create deeper, bolder, more breathtaking journeys. So don't just watch, walk with us. Hit like if you want more stories that stir your soul. Subscribe if you're ready to explore what most people forget. Comment if you're brave enough to feel it all. Share if you believe stories can heal the world. You are not alone. You are not ordinary. You are wild. And your next story begins with one click.